Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, one stabby chaos coordinator, and a chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Miss Ana del Alamo. Oh, I'm butchering that. Anna, how do you say your last name? I'm not even close to the same ballpark.
I can't even pronounce the thing. So it's Ana del Alamo.
Alamo.
But if del Alamo. But if you say it fast enough, it's just de la 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 la, something like that.
The little accent over the A in Alamo just threw me off. I was trying to add weird things to this.
So that's where you say the Alamo.
Okay.
Yeah.
But well, at least Anna I can pronounce. That one's easy.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then add the del, and then you get all that mess in my name. Yeah, I got a crazy name, and I got different names in different countries. So one day I'm going to end up in jail trying to get through an airport. I know that. It's crazy.
But what stories you'll be able to tell later?
Yeah, I got a lot of stories already. Yeah, especially after the kids were born and they have different names for me. Yep. And part of it's my husband's fault because he made me add his last name to my name, because in Spain you don't do that. You keep your maiden name. So that's why in the States I have a different name than in Spain, different name than in the UK, which is where I live. Crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you, as long as you didn't, like, I guess if your Spanish ID card said what's proper, I don't know. I guess I could see that if you got an ID card for your American side. I know. I guess they could become a hot mess.
Which I have a passport for. I'm American as well.
So yeah, I'm just saying that gets to be a hot mess. I can see what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. And then all my bank accounts here have a different name in the UK. So I've had trouble trying to get my money into my bank account from different countries. So it makes me feel like I'm a drug lord or something like that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't tell anybody. Yeah. Okay. Book money.
I'm going.
Okay. So the second part of the introduction, dear listeners, how we found them. And she is friends with J.R. Wise, the other J.R., the skinnier J.R., who we've had on the show. And he set this interview up, said we would enjoy her company. So we have her here. But before we get started, Anna, we do have to do the religion question. So are you ready?
All right. I'm ready. Ready.
All right. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Ooh. I've never seen Firefly. And I want to see. But Star Wars. I don't know why, because I feel like, and this is ridiculous because it's all in space, but I feel like Star Wars feels more real for some reason.
More lived in, I think. It feels more lived in, I think, as a universe.
Compared to, like, it's got more grit and more depth of character, even though it's full of plot holes and things like that. I imagine Star Trek is as well, but yeah, Star Wars has something. And one of my favorite shows is Andor, because they did an amazing job at it. So it's hard not to like Star Wars. That's my answer.
You really should watch Firefly, though. It's really good.
I know. It's one of those shows that I should have watched before I had kids and I had time to binge through it, because there's a lot of episodes, right?
There's like 9 or 10, I think.
Oh, isn't there a lot of seasons? Oh.
No, it's only one season. And then Fox Entertainment, where kids shows for the guy, canceled it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know about the uproar about them canceling it. Oh, if it's not that many, I will watch it then. Yeah. I don't know how.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's family friendly because the mechanic lady has some one-liners that are probably not kid friendly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, mostly I meant that the time of binge watching Lost and series like that were huge has passed. I don't have hours and hours to just watch TV all day long, which I wish I did. But if it's only that short, I will watch it because I do want
I have to be careful because if I try to watch a series, if I watch a movie, I can watch the movie and I'm done. If it's an actual series, I get sucked in. I'm like, well, one more episode.
One more. Then it's 2 a.m,
right?
What am I doing here? I gotta wake up at 6. Yeah, no, I can't do that anymore. I need my sleep. Yeah. But I will watch it. Yeah.
It's really good. I think you'll dig it. It has the same sort of space Western vibe that you liked about Star Trek or Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm convinced I'm going to like it. Yeah.
So because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia.
Ooh, Game of Thrones all the way. Yeah. And I'm proud of it because I'm one of those people that found the books way before it was a thing on TV. And it's just coincidence. And I still remember going to the bookstore back when we used to go to bookstores to find books. 2008, 2007. I can't remember, around there. And I still remember finding these really cool blue books that were called Song of Ice and Fire, and reading through, oh, this is exactly what I want to read. This is exactly what I want. And I'm one of those people that are still angry that he's never going to finish the books. So frustrating.
Did you read it in Spanish or did you read it in English?
The first one must have been Spanish because it's the bookstores in Madrid. The rest, I think it's half. And my brain can't remember what I read, what I read things in.
I know the rest of the world is a lot more bilingual than the U.S. is. So I think I default to assuming people overseas can speak more than one language, where you don't do that in the U.S.
Yeah, that's true. Not in the UK, though. Not here. People speak Spanish. English. But I work with a bunch of people from France, Holland, Belgium, Germany, and all these people can speak like 4 languages, which absolutely baffles me. Like, they'll speak Flemish and German and French and Italian, and their kids speak a bunch of languages as well. So the center of Europe is super multicultural and multilingual, which is amazing.
I barely manage English, so I don't. When it came to at the graduate level as a historian, you have to pick an area of focus.
Ooh.
I literally picked mine because if I did anything ancient or medieval, which I've always been fascinated about, I would have had to learn either another language, and then not only another language, even if I went to like English history, I would have had to learn late and early middle English and then Old English. So even though I'd have to learn another language, then I'd have to learn the old versions of that language. And I'm like, if I do American history in the colonial period, I don't have to learn another language. I'm good. So that's what I picked. So I didn't.
And the easy way. So you're a historian as well. Yeah.
Dead people amuse me and entertain me, and nobody can disagree with you because who's going to argue? They're all dead. And people that are alive, they could be just as wrong as me. Who knows? So it works for me. It's an entertaining hobby. And it's the funny thing is if you use as an author, if you use real events, you'll get people like, oh, that's unbelievable. It would never happen that way. And I'm like, oh, so let me show you this where it really did happen.
Yeah, I'm getting that a lot with JR because, of course, he likes history as well. And I suck at it. And of course, my history is on a different side of the world.
So that's one of the things they got on George R. R. Martin about is that some of the stuff he didn't think was believable. And he actually used real history from the 30 Years' War and the 100 Years' War to inspire what he did in his books. And he's like, no, let me show you the history books.
This stuff really happens.
He took some of it to the extreme, which is not to say it didn't happen. Aside from like the dragons, not to say it didn't happen that way.
Hey, who knows?
they just don't write down. So part of the problem with history is we assume people know what we know, so certain things don't get written down. Like we don't tell people, when we go to the bathroom, this is how we wipe. We just assume So if things change, it just didn't get written down, which is why the joke, if you've seen Demolition Man about 3 seashells, lands so well. Because there's certain things that just don't get written down that we just guess at later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to guess it by looking at houses or old dwellings and things like that.
And try to just figure out the mechanics and hope we get it right.
And we're probably getting so much stuff wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, and so like there's possibility, some of the brutality, it could have happened. We just don't know one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So one of the crying shames of adulthood is we do stop asking each other the important questions. So I'm going to ask you today, madam, what is your favorite dinosaur?
I think it's the nowadays dinosaurs have different names, but the Triceratops, I cannot pronounce this. The one with 3 horns.
Triceratops?
Triceratops, that. I don't know why. I always liked it. I thought it was super cool.
The Triceratops didn't get a rename. Some of the ones that got renamed were ones that the early paleontologists either got wrong and they combined more than one, or there was one where this one happened in England, where they actually combined 2 on purpose as a joke, and it just took. And then years later, they had to kind of rename to correct for the joke. And I'm trying to blank on which one that was.
I wonder which one it is. Yeah, but this is again the same thing. How do we know exactly how they look? Like all these renderings and 3D things that we come up with. It's so difficult. We're probably getting so much stuff wrong. And
we assume lizard when we think dinosaurs, but now we think maybe they were feathered. And I still think murder lizards look a lot scarier than murder chickens. I
don't know. Have you ever been attacked by a goose? I have. Or turkey?
But, can you imagine Jurassic Park if they're like clucking at you with feathers.
Yeah, with feathers and moving their necks like a chicken.
and squawking at you instead of like the growls.
Ooh, the squawking will be terrifying. And a big
Although,
giant.
some of what they've done, they have like auditory experts who like that's their medical field of expertise. I've recreated like the sound cavities. I'm not familiar with all the medical stuff, and they figured out that this is what the animal would have sounded like between 3D rendering and like AutoCAD type things. Like they use modern science and work their mumbo jumbo magical stuff, and like this is what we think they would have sounded like. And there's some YouTube videos floating around where they release what various dinosaurs would have sounded like, and some of it's kind of terrifying.
I gotta look at that. Yeah, I mean they talked about this in Jurassic Park. And what was that? Beginning of the 2000s or late 90s?
I think early 90s is when the first Jurassic Park came out.
No, early 90s. Because I saw it when I was 10 or 12 years old, I think. Yeah, around there. I'm dating myself. But I remember them speaking about blowing through a skull and coming out with a sound or something like that. So it's a concept that's been around for 20 years.
Well, they've perfected it by using medical science based on impressions they found to sort of guess at where like musculature and
all the bones and ears.
Right. Yeah. And then you know, I don't know what makes the voice travel, but whatever that is, they found some imprints to give ideas. I am not medically inclined. I barely made it through biology. So.
I am, but that's a super complicated science. So it's hearing stuff. You got the vocal cords, you got all your bones in the inner ear. So that's complicated.
But they've also done that with some of the proto-humans, so the Neanderthals and the Neanderthals and all that as well.
And all their facial appearances and things like that.
I mean, there's still some guesswork and artistry involved in it.
It's gotta be,
But I mean, like we can guess bone structure and facial symmetry from where the muscles would be, but like skin tone and pigmentation and hairstyles, all of that's just guesswork. Yeah, still fun to watch it when they do it on the documentaries, though. I still enjoy it, even though I know they're guessing.
I know we all like to be lied to, right? It's kind of like reading a book. We just
believe what we a couple of the Neanderthals, and I'm like, that guy looks like he'd be about ready to get on a Harley and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So,
oh man, some are ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. poor women. That's what they had to pick from.
Yeah. Well, the women are not much better.
This is true. They needed better skincare. What can I say? We try to be civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So, coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Ooh, so anything that's not water.
Okay.
I don't know. I hate water. I've always hated water. I think I didn't drink water until I was 25 years old or something, when I realized I probably need to take care of myself a little bit better. But yeah, I used to drink. I have lots of fruit and vegetables and things like that. So I think I pull water from that. So I always joke that if the apocalypse happens, I'll survive because I don't need that much water. My husband will be dead within a day. So that's actually a survival thing. But yeah, I'll have both. I definitely like coffee better, but I will have like 5 or 6 teas a day, especially because I'm in Britain. So there's always a fresh tea in my desk made by someone in a team at work, which is really nice.
What kind of tea do you drink?
Just normal English breakfast with milk, which is what's called normal here.
Okay. What about your coffee? Because I know in Europe, coffee is drank slightly different than we do in the States.
Yeah, I'm not very Spanish for coffee. Coffee in Spain is disgusting, by the way. I think somebody's going to kill me by saying don't. Yeah,
I don't think I've ever had coffee the way the Spanish drink it.
It's just
I've had Cuban coffee, but that's not the same thing, I don't think.
Yeah, because that's like an espresso. That's like an Italian strong.
It's got enough sugar in it that you're like your skin vibrates.
Yeah, you're like but not more Americanized. I think I'm more of a latte. Well, I'm definitely a latte kind of person. I like it strong, but with a lot of milk. So definitely Americanized in that sense. And boiling hot, even in the middle of summer. Yeah.
Do you add flavors to it, or just the coffee and the milk?
Nah, just the coffee. The flavors like that. Yeah. I don't know. Do you like it with flavors and syrups and things like that?
I'm a sucker for French vanilla.
And
I'm a basic white girl, so I will drink the pumpkin spice latte at least once in the fall.
Oh, really?
I used to get it from Starbucks, but they've been going downhill. So I'm thinking this might be the year I buy my own espresso machine and just figure out how to make it myself.
Yeah, with some nice syrupy thingies.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
paid my way through grad school working as a
Mhm.
barista at some various coffee
Ah,
shops.
so you know how to do this.
So
Yeah,
I can do it. And back when I was working, so I
yeah,
worked at the coffee shop on Villanova where I went to grad school, the Holy
nice.
Grounds Cafe, which is kind of
Mm.
ironic name. It's punny and deliciously glorious because it's also Villanova is a functioning monastery, so Holy Grounds.
Oh,
Um, but
nice.
then I started working at Starbucks because that just when you work for the coffee
Ah,
shop on campus, when school's
mm.
closed, it's closed, and I needed to earn money the rest of the time too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the rent was due whether school was in session or not. And so
Exactly.
I started working at Starbucks, and I went through their Black Apron program.
Nice.
They don't have anymore. So in
Black
theory, I was a
Apron.
coffee
What's that?
master, but their coffee isn't as like I've learned some since then, and it's so burnt the
Ooh.
way they roast it. I'm just not
Oh,
a fan.
I don't know. I love it. Yeah, a lot of my friends, because you either hate or love Starbucks. I love it. I don't know why. And my friends hate it. My favorite thing in the morning is to be early enough at work where I can just go to the Starbucks next door and get myself a coffee, and it just
But
makes my day.
it's possible. Like so one of the things about
Hmm.
companies like that is it's all about regionality when it comes to sourcing things.
Maybe,
So
yeah.
like when I worked in Philly, we got all of our
Mm.
pastries and our bagels and stuff were coming from New York City.
Oh,
Our bagels
nice.
were delicious. I moved
Yeah.
to Norfolk when I was working there. When I moved back to
Mm.
Virginia, and it
Yeah.
was made locally, and I went from oh my god, I love these bagels to holy crap, these are hard as board. Ugh. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible that you guys are just getting better stuff where you're at than I had when I was working at
Hmm.
Starbucks. Um,
I don't know.
but
Maybe, yeah.
I've gotten into some of the small batch coffee companies that are making, like obviously Coffee Brand
Mm.
Coffee sponsors us, and I really do like their stuff. But back when they were
Nice. Yeah.
still open, there were a few others,
Hmm.
other local places that are around that are floating around. The problem is
Yeah.
it's hard to tell with the small batch stuff. Are you actually getting a small batch
Hmm.
coffee brewing company, or are they drop shipping where it's like one large place and they're just putting new labels on it?
Yeah, that's what I always
It's
wonder.
hard to tell. I know
Yeah.
Coffee Brand Coffee, at least they have their own roasting plant. They do their own thing, but
Ooh, nice.
some of the other places, it's hard to tell. But I don't know. I'm a sucker
Yeah.
for fresh flavors, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
So,
But also for environments, I love coffee shops. And there's one in town that I absolutely love. So sometimes I don't care what kind of coffee you're serving me as long as I like the place
oh,
and the
absolutely.
environment. Yeah, and yeah,
But
they know me there, they know the dog.
I,
So
I want the coffee shop
mm,
to feel like a coffee shop and not a fast food restaurant.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
So
the
Starbucks
ones
doesn't have that
here,
vibe.
the
Mm.
ones here feel like I'm basically going through a fancy McDonald's.
Ah, yeah.
And
Because
so
we're yeah.
we don't have the coffee shop because when the one I was in Philly, it did feel like that coffee shop. I mean, you'd hang out there for hours and just argue politics for the fun of it with people.
That's
Or
what I
books or
made a boyfriend there once. Yeah.
right. The ones
Yeah.
here, it's just like it's drive-through McDonald's with coffee instead, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's not quite the same.
Because
You
where are
you
you?
want you want it to feel artsy fartsy, like some beatnik is going to show up with spoken word poetry or something
Yeah,
while you're
exactly.
sitting
Yeah.
there. Right? That's the vibe you want from a coffee
A little
shop.
bit of dirt and rust in some
Right.
corner. Yeah,
We
absolutely. Yeah, with some history. Yeah, not that we
we
have that
actually
next
have
door.
a place that's not too far from my mom called Badass Coffee, and their
Ooh.
logo is a donkey because the badass is a play on words.
Ah,
That's out by the beach. That's really good.
nice. Ooh,
Unfortunately,
nice.
because it's a small place, they don't like they charge a little bit more because it's sourcing your
Yeah.
stuff. When you buy in bulk as a corporation, they do a little
Mm,
bit better on price, but it's totally worth it to support local stuff. They're just
yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I tend to buy my beans from them when I'm not buying
Nice.
from the
Yeah.
coffee or coffee. But yeah, I
I
really
like
enjoy
that.
the fresh flavor.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
So
totally.
so is
Yep.
there when you get your coffee, do you have a favorite roast?
They never asked me. I think maybe it's not that much of a thing over here. I don't know if it's over there where you choose your roast. You just get what you get. They have one kind in this coffee shop. It's called Santini's, and it's quite strong as well. So
It's
they do a
probably a
really
dark
good job
roast
with it.
then.
It is really dark, yeah. And sometimes what I normally do is they'll fill this up, and in fact, this is theirs. And I get home and I have to add a little bit more oat milk or milk, and then it'll last me the whole day. Just nice. I just keep sipping it. And the only things that I keep warming up in the microwave, which I know is sacrilege, but it's just I like it warm. Yeah, the
I
poor thing.
when I do my lattes, I tend to make them what they used to jokingly call when I was working for the coffee shops kids temp because my mouth, I
Hmm.
don't want to burn my mouth. I want to taste it. But then I'd get people who are like, I wanted X temperature. I'm like, man, you realize that's so hot. I can't legally sell it to you at that temperature.
Oh, I know.
It will burn your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, no,
That's the
take it this way at home. And I'm like, okay, but I can't. Like, I will get in trouble. They will find me.
I have had this conversation with baristas, and I've been the person asking for the extra hot I wanted the boiling coffee with the bubbles on top. And they were telling me like,
in the US after that McDonald's lawsuit.
Yeah.
They're real finicky, and it's. I mean, I wouldn't have personally paid the fine, but I've definitely been fired, and I kind of needed the job. So I'm like, I'd really like to help you, but
I know, yeah. But McDonald's still has it pretty hot. Sometimes I'll go to McDonald's just because I know it's the hottest place I can get it. Yeah.
I actually have found, as far as if you're going for just straight coffee, since we don't really have a coffee shop where we can just sit and hang out locally anymore, because Badass is a beach place, so it's outside. Yeah. It's got benches and stuff, but if the weather's not great, and you're going to get it and sit in the car. But Dunkin' Donuts has some pretty good, decent coffee. But then Wawa, which is a local gas station chain, they actually have really good coffee, surprisingly.
Yeah, I've heard about Dunkin' Donuts. I've never had it there, but I have heard of that. And it's incredible, those places have a good coffee.
I've heard Dunkin', if you're from where you said your husband was from, it's kind of on par with like Timmy Hortons, which is in Canada and in the West Coast.
No, but we have what's it called? Brooks Brothers. No, Brooks Brothers. No, it's not Brooks Brothers. There's a store. There's a clothing store. Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros is the coffee that we have in Oregon. Where my husband's from. Yeah, and it's super sweet. This is having candy in a mug. But the coffee's okay.
I remember one time this lady came in and she was asking for. So Starbucks used to sell. They call it the maple latte. And it was basically felt like you were drinking a pancake dripped in maple syrup. And you were drinking it. It was delicious. I will not lie.
Really?
It had so many calories in it. The American Heart Association asked them to stop selling it.
You have to squeeze it through the little hole.
Right. And this lady came and asked for the calorie count, and I looked it up in front of her.
Oh, no.
I should have gone to the back and looked it up. And without thinking, I'm like, holy crap, lady, you're drinking 2 Big Macs.
It's clogging up your arteries.
My boss was less than pleased with me that day, but whatever, it was the truth.
And that's how you got fired.
Right. I've had to like learn to take things like slightly less calories. So like now when I make, I used to do the heavy cream and the flavored stuff, and now it's just like plain milk and sugar-free syrups because try to get back to full. Yeah. Once you hit 40, like you got to watch out what you're eating, and you can't just eat whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm learning to like less in it. And I will say, once you detox on some of that sugary stuff, you realize you notice flavors you didn't before.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're used to the nuance that you miss, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm finding I like things that I didn't used to previously now that it's been months since I've done the sugary stuff.
Yeah. I used to have it with sugar, and I cannot have a tea or coffee with sugar anymore. It just tastes it tastes fake and artificial, even though it's natural sugar. Although I really miss eggnog lattes from Starbucks because we don't have those here. Eggnog doesn't really exist here.
Really?
And I have this in my mind that this amazing thing I found out that existed when I moved to the States because I lived there for 6 years. And I really miss it.
I never really liked eggnog. I do remember it looked like scrambled eggs at the bottom of the steamer when you cook it because eggs in it. So when you would steam it, there would be something that would just cook at the bottom, and you'd have to constantly scrape it out. The heat causes it to separate. So the part that makes the liquid is more like the not the yolk, but the white part.
The white stuff,
and you get a little bit of the yolk, but most of the yolk will settle at the bottom, and it'll become like scrambled eggs. Right,
scrambled eggs.
And you gotta scrape that out every so often.
So between that and the pancake coffee, which one?
Right. It's two of them. You've got breakfast in a cup.
You got breakfast, yeah. You just need some bacon, and you're good.
So over there, when you do your coffees, we ended up being yet again the food cast. I can't help myself, people. I'm a recovering fatty. When you guys do your coffee shops, what kind of food or pastries are normally sold where you guys when you're overseas now? Like what's normal for you guys? Cakes?
Cake over here in the UK. It's not something.
When you say cake, do you mean like what we think of as cake, or are you thinking something different? Because I know biscuits over there are cookies here.
Yeah. So they have. So when you say a cookie, it's a big like a chocolate chip cookie that's big.
Right.
Fine by me because then I get a big cookie. I had a matcha one the other day. That was delicious, which I'd never had before. And then, but mostly cakes. They have this Victoria sponge cake, which is basically, I think, just normal sponge with jam, and then sponge and jam. And so the cakes are really tall, and they'll have tons of things on the top. They're not really my vibe. But yeah, cakes. Everybody will have a cake here with the coffee, which is not something that happens in Spain, and usually not in the US either, because it's usually you get it to go. And the other thing that we struggle to get used to is what you call a scone is a biscuit or a scone. So scone, biscuit, and something else is completely different. Some are crumbly, some are sweet, some are salty. My poor husband, he still can't order what he wants, so we just gave up with the scones.
I don't mind scones when they're soft. When they get the ones where they're hard, like it's like almost biscotti but harder, I'm like, yeah, those aren't for me. Biscottis I can do because you're meant to dip them in the coffee to soften them up. That works.
Yeah, that's something different.
And it'll preserve them, right? When you do them that way. But when it's a scone, it's so big, like it doesn't fit in the cup. So no, that doesn't work.
You're trying to put some jam in it, and it just crumbles. And
I know wars have been fought over which goes first, the jam or the cheese, the cream cheese or whatever.
Oh yeah, the butter. Yeah, the butter's really good in this country. Yeah,
it's interesting. Well, it's because it's real butter. It's not the margarine stuff we get here a lot.
Yeah, the slab of fat that you get over there.
I get my family gets big on that one because I come from a family that owns dairy farms. So like the margarine is just almost like in the 80s in America calling someone commie. The equivalent to that in my family was saying someone was using margarine instead of real butter.
Nice.
You're one of those.
You one of those.
Because my husband owned a dairy farm, so it was like insulting to the family, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, my husband's family has a cattle ranch in Oregon.
Yeah.
So imagine, it's a good thing that I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't eat a lot of meat. So I've had to be careful about what I say because I like fish and I usually don't eat a lot of meat. But yeah, anybody
that has strong opinions about how you cook your steak.
How do you think cattle beef ranchers cook their steak?
I'm guessing they don't do it well done. I'm guessing it's like medium rare to rare.
That's what I used to think, and it's exactly the opposite.
Really?
Because so I can't let my husband touch a steak because it will end up being like, as hard as this. It will be it's horrible. And that's because normally what they eat, it's the old cows that they have. They just have to euthanize them, and then those are the ones that the ranchers eat. They sell the good ones.
That makes sense.
And they don't trust the parasites and things like that. So in their mind, I'm hoping my in-laws don't watch this, but in their mind, they have to overcook the meat to make sure that it's safe. So here I am, married to a beef rancher that cannot cook a steak.
Does he put like steak sauce on it or ketchup, A1, anything like that?
Yeah, he puts everything. This is a fight constantly because he'll take out all the sauces from the fridge. I'll put them back in. He'll take them back out. And the kids are like, "We want all the ketchup. We want all the no." And in Spain,
the kids are gonna be confused growing up between the Americans, the Spanish, and growing up in Britain. They're gonna be like, "I don't know what to do culinary wise."
Mostly because my mother tells them like they should never have sauces, and of course my mother-in-law is the opposite. Like, have all the sauces; they're amazing. They give all this flavor. So. But they're kids. Of course, they love ketchup. So whenever Dad comes with the ketchup, it's like, So, great.
All right. Well, we got distracted again. But how did you get into? It happens all the time. Like I said, I'm recovering fatty. How did you get into your love of speculative fiction? Because obviously you write it, so you must like it.
Yeah, thankfully I like it. Imagine writing something you don't like. But yeah, so things that are more contemporary. I just we live life every day. I don't want to read about current life. It's boring. It's what I see, and it's also depressing sometimes. So for me, anything that's even in the past, I love historical fiction. But anything that's fantasy, science fiction, I love. But I'm a scientist. I'm a veterinarian. So for me, science fiction has this quality of that deep science that is almost like magic, but everything is backed up by real science. So could be potentially. And for me, that's just fascinating. So I love writing about it. I love reading about it. And also, I'm fascinated by space. If you ask me what I wanted to be when I was a kid, I used to say I wanted to be an astronaut, which that ship has sailed. but I absolutely love space, deep space, planets. I love the physics of it. Everything to do with it.
Well, if you could just sell enough books, if enough people listen to this and buy your books, you get as famous as Katy Perry, then you could just go up on Blue Origin and call yourself an astronaut too.
Yep. If I ever get famous, I'm absolutely doing that. No doubt. Hands down.
You just always enjoyed space and speculative fiction? Yep. Was it fantasy or sci-fi as a kid that spoke to you first?
I guess sci-fi, because the first books that really caught me were the Animorphs. I think that's when I did the jump to being absolutely hooked to reading. And Animorphs was sci-fi. And this sort of, do you know them? Did you hear about them? Yeah, so I really like them. So that was sci-fi. But then I had Dragonlance as well, which I love. So then fantasy. So it's a bit of both. And I used to write both when I was younger. I write what I wrote now because I've been writing this series since I was 14 years old. So sci-fi. But I also have a few unfinished fantasy books that are just in my handwritten notes that one day maybe I'll go back to. And I love, dragons are so cool. So it's hard not to write about them.
Absolutely. Well, since I want to know more about the story you've been writing since you're 14 years old, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly go for the man, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that and then get in deeper to the series that we brought you here to talk about.
All right. Sounds good.
They were called the Human Marine Corps, but their cause was never humanity's until the Sleeper awoke. A century ago, all but 2 members of Lance Scipio's unit were executed for bringing dishonor to his regiment. Now he wakes into a strange new time and is tasked with whipping into shape the worst squad of misfits in the entire Human Marine Corps. The price of failure? Death. This completed series is set in the worlds of the hit Human Legion series by Tim C. Taylor, now released with a special novelette titled No Marine Left Behind, Freedom Can Be Won. So dive into this debut novel by author J.R. Handley as he takes you on an action-filled sequence of military science fiction glory.
All right, thank you for sticking with that commercial interlude. Now we are back with Anna, whose last name I will probably butcher, so we're just going to say Anna and move on.
Sounds good.
And so, first off, for people listening, before we get too deep into the conversation, I'm going to throw the cover up real quick so people can see it. What would you say, if we're using, for this book specifically, what would you say if you're using a movie theater rating, so people would understand, how would you rate this book for parents that are wondering if this is okay for their kid?
I think it's safe to say maybe 12 plus.
Okay.
I'm not sure they'll understand some of the ideas behind it, but yeah, definitely there's no sexual content. There's just strong language here and there, but 12 plus should be safe, I think. I might change my mind when my kids are that age.
You're the first person that we've interviewed who's not an American since we started asking this question, because one of the readers said, hey, like, I listen with my kids and I want to know, is it okay for my kids to read? And I realized, do they do the same kind of movie rating thing in the overseas as we do here, like the R, PG, all that stuff?
They do. I always assumed that whatever the movie gets, wherever it's produced in the States, that's what they get over here, but I don't know. Sensibilities
are different, like when it comes to gun versus nudity and sex, and I know all of those
the same,
scales or like what the population will tolerate are different.
I think it's probably a little bit different, but I'm not sure, because Americans are really odd in what you tolerate, right? Because you won't, things like not allowing kids into bars. It's very bizarre to me, but then you can't drink till you're 21, but you can go to war when you're 18 or 19. So your culture is very, say, bipolar. It is probably different here. How
you can enlist at 17 with parental consent, because I did.
It's crazy.
You can play until you're 18, but the Brits will let you enlist at 16.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
They finish school at 16 if you're not on the college track. Now, the question is, are they deployable overseas before they're 18? That I don't know, but I know they can enlist at 16.
You cannot be deployed in the States before 18, right? Because you're not an adult.
No, you can't. Technically, you're getting legally emancipated if you enlist at 17, but you still can't go overseas until you're 18. Although the odds of you shipping off to boot camp on your 18th birthday and being done in time to deploy, like, it just most of the time it's such a small window that doesn't really become an issue. Because if you're smart enough to be done with high school at 17, you're probably smart enough to have gotten college scholarships. So it's a rare issue. Like, I enlisted at 17, but by the time I went to boot camp, It was,
Wow.
and I finished and all my training. By the time I was deployable, I was 18 anyway. But yeah, so
Oh,
it's
that's really good.
12 plus as far as
Yeah,
what's on the
I
page.
think so.
Now,
Yeah.
you said you've been writing this world since you were 14.
Yeah.
Wait, can you tell us about that?
Yes. Yeah, sure. And I have this in my bio, I think, because I always thought it was funny. So when I was 14, the first computer appeared at home. And again, I'm dating myself, which is not the smartest thing. And my dad decided to put the computer in my room. So he wanted me to do school projects. And of course, I didn't do school projects. I went into AO and all this stuff that we used to do. And I decided to start.
Robots, as one does.
Yeah, exactly. So late nights doing nothing. And I thought I'm gonna write a book in the computer. And it started coming out. And I think it started as I'm gonna write about a character who's not the main character, and everybody around her is gonna be the important stuff. And of course, this character ends up being the person in the cover who is the main character. And so I wrote it, probably finished around 18 or so, when I was 18. Printed it out. I still have those stacks of that book that was like this thick. It's crazy. And I decided to send it to some publishers in Spain. And it was written in Spanish. And of course, I had no idea what I was doing. One publisher said, no, thank you. Then the rest didn't even get back to me. And this was me sending these ginormous stacks of paper. And then it sort of kind of got pushed to corner because I went to vet school. And of course, it gets busy. When I met my husband, I realized, oh, he can't read this because it's in Spanish. So I decided to translate it. And by translate it, I mean I just rewrote it in English. I rewrote it as an adult instead of a teenager into a proper adult story in English. And then as the years went on, I sort of revamped it again as I became more mature. And I finished probably 4 years ago, I think. And I was never going to but I decided probably 3 years ago that I probably should get this thing out in the world since I put so much work into it. And here it is.
So what took you so long to go from finishing it 4 years ago and then 3 years ago you decided let's get it out to now you're releasing it in 2025?
Kids. Kids, as usual. They get in the way of life.
Absolutely. That's a valid answer.
So yeah, I have 2 little girls. In just about the last couple of years, it's when I've really been able to, they sleep, so I can write till 1 a.m, and I know we're all going to sleep. They can be in the house playing like they are right now, and I can be doing my own thing, and they're not crying or hurting themselves, or pulling from the dog's tail. So yeah, it was really hard to find the time to write while I was in vet school, while I was specializing, and then while I was having kids. So this has been like a big chunk of 15 years of my life.
School. I forgot. That's a huge time suck too.
Yeah, and then specialization, which is what I did in the States, is a huge time suck. Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it.
So that's one of the things. I went to a writing convention in the U.S. It was called 20 Books to Vegas in 2016 or 2017. I went to both years. And one of the things they did was the lady that was getting up to give the motivational speak, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about, you have no excuses, button chair, write. There's no excuse not to write, except for parents. You have an excuse.
Okay.
Kids are only little once. Enjoy it while you can, because you'll never get the time back. And I was like, oh yes, this lady gets it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you have kids. You have
I have 2 sons, so you don't get that time back. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's 100% true.
Is this a standalone novel, or you said Star Battle Legacy 1. Is this going to be a series of what do you see this becoming?
So this is a story that's a duology. that big stack of papers that I just talked about? So I wrote this thing in one go. I wrote the 2 books, and then I realized that I can't publish a 250K word novel. And this is me writing something without having no idea what this world is about. It's like, I'll just write this thing and it'll get published, and I'll write. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 pages long. Dork. So probably a few years ago, I decided that it needed to be split in half. So that's turned into War Beyond Galaxies, and the next one, which the title, we're going to release it this week. So that'll be a duology. There'll be 2 of them. And then I have a trilogy planned for the Galaxy series probably after this one, which is set about 50 years down the road of this timeline. And then another trilogy planned for even later on. And maybe a bunch of short stories. In fact, I do have a short story. But yeah, So I do have a lot of universe in my head within the Galaxia series.
What would you? Obviously, it's sci-fi.
Yep.
But what would, if you were going to look at some of the sub-genres of sci-fi, how would you categorize this story?
So it's military sci-fi, and it is also space opera, which sometimes my brain wants to say soap opera, which I've said that word like 3 times. It's not soap opera, it's space opera. Imagine that. So it's those two. Within military, it's more space fleet. I cannot write Marines. Never. Yeah, that's something that's way out of my scope. So more space fleet, military, space opera, very much character driven, and a bit of epic sci-fi as well, because it involves, as the name says, not one galaxy but 2 of them as well, with lots of species, lots of worlds and civilizations.
So is this a universe where you have, like, what kind of tech are we talking about for your world?
Ooh, in what sense? It's a lot of tech.
FTL, or do they have to
yeah,
biosleep between galaxies?
I see. Yeah, no, they
chemical propellants or razors and lasers and.
So definitely FTL, but
Okay.
because it's the only way you can get from point A to point B in a galaxy, and still be able to tell proper stories.
Well, without a wormhole of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. Which may or may not come into play in some of these books, but you'll have to read it to find out. Which is what the little logo maybe implies, the Galaxia series on the cover. So yeah, we got FTL, but I'm trying to be careful because I don't want it to be like in Star Wars, where FTL is the solution for everything, where you get into trouble, you just kind of click a button and you disappear. So I'm trying to not use it very often. I'm trying not to talk about it a lot. I want the characters, solve their issues with the stuff they have in front of them, with their wit and with their teams and things like that. Not use technology to solve everything. I also didn't use a lot of like body modifications because I think as well it's not cheating, but it makes life much easier for the character. And again, I want them to be able to solve conflicts and problems based on their skill and their wit. So yeah, there's some implants and things like that, but I don't use a lot of that.
When you start getting into transhumanism, though, it causes some deep existential questions of like what it means to be human at that point. And
that's very true.
Does that the kind of story you want to tell, or you know what I mean? Like that changes the kind of story you have to tell because it changes who you are.
Yeah, no, there's not much. Something I could probably do down the line, or maybe because I have so many civilizations and things like that, maybe some of them could have that sort of problem. But when it comes to the humans, which is for now who I'm writing about, there's not much of that. There's more existential questions in terms of, who's our enemy. How similar are we to them? Have we been lied to all our lives, just saying that we should fight these wars regardless of why? Should we keep going? What do we do with the truths that we learn? So I'm talking a lot more about those philosophical questions, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the things I don't think enough people do when it comes to FTL, they just assume I go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I think if you treated it more like you would sea travel, where there are things like, for whatever reason, because I mean, we're essentially magic science at that point, right? So why not have things like currents? Because sea lanes work because it's safe. Yeah. But if you've got sea lanes, then there's a possibility of collisions because it's being used by multiple people. Yeah. And that means if you go out of the sea lanes because you're making an emergency jump, what if you hit the shoals, so to speak? Like, and you start adding the navigational considerations, and so now just randomly hitting the button to jump into warp is now risky. And I think if you start factoring it in and you treat it, as almost an analog to sea travel, you can add some of that tension back that some people ignore.
Yeah, because I think FTL can go both in a few different ways. Because my husband and I talk about this all the time because he's engineer, so he likes all this stuff. But for him, a ship kind of goes from point A to point B through real space in a way, but super fast. So you got to plot that course perfectly well and make sure you know where every planet is going to be, where every asteroid is going to be on the way from A to B, and then kind of weave your way through really fast. And for me, space curves. So you don't have to plot it that well. You have to do something else, God knows what. But because space curves, you just kind of punch a hole through the fabric of space and go that way.
That's
So
how
there's many
Einstein
ways.
posited it.
Yeah. Which, yeah, for me, that science is absolutely fascinating. There's a lot of it out there, and I'm trying to pull from some of the real astrophysicist theories, which I don't fully understand. But
And if you're doing a straight line, like one of the things, like I said, I grew up in a Navy town.
Yeah.
The old, when I was one of my first jobs in the Army was a boatswain's mate. I was a boat driver for the Army. Before they realized I shoot so well, they put me in the infantry.
Nice.
One of the things they tell you about navigation is like if you're going from the U.S., so from Norfolk, Virginia to England, and you're half a degree off and you hold that course, you're going to end up in England. You're going to end up somewhere in Africa. And so you magnify that at galactic scales.
Imagine that, yeah.
Just a little.
Just a little,
might not even be in the same galaxy anymore. And so,
so how do we get back now?
Yeah. Right. And so it can get interesting, which makes me have a whole new appreciation for like what was it, the Voyager series? The Star Trek ad with Janeway getting lost. I don't know. I don't remember the exact story, but the concept of her trying to get home because they weren't where they thought they were.
Yeah, it's a lot of what I do here.
Yeah, so space travel can add complexity if you let it, but I think people try to treat it as, point A to point B, hit a button and zap, and that takes. I think if you take the complexity out of it, you take the wonder out of it.
I agree, yeah. And I think sometimes you got to do it because you can't speak about the physics of it in every paragraph. But
no, but I mean, if you set that up as a premise of the universe, then you only have to talk about it when it goes wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when there's tension and there's risks, because like we can't do that because we haven't inverted the dilithium crystals or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, do you try to stick to as real sounding science as possible, or do you use the hand wavium?
I never heard it mentioned that way. So I love real science. Andy Weir and all his books. Weir, however you pronounce his name. I think is absolutely amazing. I could listen to his audiobooks all day long. And I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm not that good at it. So I do try to stick to some real science if I can, but we're dealing with aliens, we're dealing with other planets, so it's impossible. You'd never get anything done if you really stuck to science. But I do try to keep it somewhat real, try to explain what makes sense, explain the physiology of a lot of the characters. So in that sense, I do like it. And I feel like it's really cool. And a lot of people, some of the readers have already fed back that they love the way I describe science, that thankfully I don't go too in depth to the point that it's not understandable for people that are not into it. But they enjoy that it feels real. It feels it's got substance to it. So for me, science is really cool, and I wish I could do it a lot better than I do.
I like science in the layperson. Like I can read the white papers and understand it, but once you start getting beyond that, like it's out of my head.
Oh yeah.
The white papers, if you don't know, dear listener, that's generally the summary that goes on top of the presented papers for academic stuff.
Okay.
Be it medical or whatever, they call them white papers. They're the summaries of all the technical stuff. So that's generally how they sell it to the idiots like me. So
useful.
when you created your alien, so obviously you mentioned in the beginning that you're a veterinarian, so you're specialized in animals. Did you let that influence how you design the aliens, and you tried to think of like what would be biophysically possible, or did you lean into that sense of wonder and figure the rest out later?
A little bit of both. And remember, I wrote this book I started when I was 14. So the aliens that I have in my head have been in my head since I was a teenager. So I didn't conceive them out of pure science. It's just pure imagination. But when I talk about things like their blood and how they breathe, and one of them gets wounded somewhere along the book, and when I talk about it, how we solve that problem, it is very much related to the medical world and how I deal with things. And I really like the physiology. And that's something really cool that we veterinarians have that doctors don't have. So because we deal with so many species, we know how to extrapolate from one species to another one. Whereas doctors can't do that because they just deal with one. They just deal with people. So for them, people is just it. So I can imagine different aliens, compare them to each other, compare the physiologies, compare to humans, and sort of figure out how they would work and how their bodies will function. And I think that's fascinating. So I think I have the physiology more down in my head than their actual appearance, which is a bit strange.
Okay, so since you started writing this at 14, it's relevant. When you were that young 14-year-old girl, were you always interested in the science and the animal stuff where that would have flavored it? Or did that interest come to you later where which would have been after you created this?
Nah, I was always interested in animals. I wanted to be a farmer. I wanted to be a biologist. I wanted to be
So the interest coincided. So you had some understanding, probably more than the average 14-year-old.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Now, when you created the aliens, did you factor in the alien first and then their home second, or did you do it together, or did you do the home first?
Definitely aliens first. We never get to see their home other than to attack it. At least not in this book. So definitely just the aliens and their personalities more than anything. Because there's a lot in the book about how they're not that different from people, and there's a evolutionary reason for it. And I do go a little bit into that. You know, we were talking about dinosaurs before, so there's a little bit of this, where do we all come from? What cellular organisms do we come from? And is it possible that some of these would have landed in another planet, maybe through asteroid bombardments? So yeah, I like to play with the fact that these aliens perhaps are not that different from people, and it's finding out.
When it comes to evolution, one of the things that comes up in science fiction a lot was, well, Star Trek was famous for what the old Star Trek called Forehead Ridge of the Week. And it was because budgets were a thing. So it was literally, that was the difference. So you could tell the various aliens, because look at their forehead. It's all the weird markings.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, we know that was, 60s television budgets.
Yeah.
But the idea that in order for a species to be capable of manipulating technology to the point where they could reach space flight, they would need to be bipedal and have opposing thumbs. Is that something as a doctor you buy into, and thus it plays into your story? Or do you think outside of the box where, like, Star Wars has some squid type races that somehow managed to make spaceships?
Yeah, as long as the bipedal thing, I don't know why. And there's a lot of evolution of, I think there's a reason why we're smart, because we became erect as people because our brains evolved and things like that. So we ended up having our hands free. But what if you have 6 legs or 7 legs or tentacles, and you got all this things to use? So yeah, I don't buy into the bipedal things. The opposing thumbs, I think you do need something that can grab things, right? But what if you have mental, telepathic ways of doing things, or I don't know, you have 10 tongues and you can use your tongues to use a keypad. So yeah, there's a million ways to do it. And who says that in other planets, in other galaxies, aliens have to have a body or a brain or skin or eyes? It could be completely different. Who knows? You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Now, when you say you can do whatever you want, obviously that's leaning into the sense of wonder. From the medical perspective, though, do you when you're thinking with your xenobiologist type hat, because I think veterinarians are as close to xenobiologists as anybody can get, from proper medical training, right? Do you think that it's possible for species to reach the point where they're making technology if they don't have the opposable thumbs? Could an octopus somehow manage, because they can manipulate their tentacles, to create that kind of technology given enough evolutionary ability to progress?
Ooh. I think in this planet, you probably need some sort of opposing appendix.
Okay.
Whether there's a tentacle or something, because we're very physical in this planet. Right? This is the way we use our technology is by touching it and by manipulating it. And we have to build things as well. But in other planets, who knows? But yeah, in this planet, I do think you have to have something that can grab. Because I think that
you're factoring in the assumption that there are possible worlds so different than ours that we can't comprehend. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
I think we tend to assume that life can only happen on planets like ours, and I think that bases a lot of our assumptions.
Yeah, I think we all think the same thing.
Although we have seen evolution in action. There was a couple of years ago, it was in the National Geographic. I still have that copy floating around somewhere, where they ended up observing like monkeys in the wild, and they started developing tools, like primitive tools, because they were like defending their territory against another group of monkeys, and they were like turning sticks into weapons. And so I think, at some level, everything given time potentially is evolving to something more. What that looks like, who knows?
I completely agree.
Given that you liked science fiction as a kid, Did you ever get into Planet of the Apes, that universe?
No, I didn't, because the monkeys or the costumes just felt so fake.
I was wondering if that concept would have been something interesting for you to play with on some of these
No,
alien planets.
no, it's never been. I don't know why, and it just feels weird. Like, why would a monkey become like a semi-human? And I haven't really seen the movies. I've seen maybe one. It
Okay.
never really attracted me that much.
So
Yeah.
you said this is obviously going to be a duology. The universe is
Yeah.
larger because you're going to have some short stories and then 2 more trilogies in this universe.
Yeah.
Do
Hopefully.
you foresee most of the stories you write are going to be in this universe, or are you going to branch out outside of this? It sounds like it's deep enough. You could tell lots of kind of stories in it.
I think I can do a lot of stories, but I would like to branch out and try something else just to see how it goes. And also, I want to write a standalone at some point, something I can publish, and this is it. Just throw it there, and it'll have beginning and have an ending. But I have no idea. Yeah.
Do you foresee going down the fantasy route since you like dragons so much?
Maybe.
I have seen authors put dragons in space, so anything's possible.
Yeah, but again, not my thing. I don't know why. And there's a lot of it right now. There's what's it called? Sci fantasy, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And
Star Trek did the space whales, so.
Oh yeah, Star Wars did that too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So all levels of weirdness are possible if you just smoke enough hookah.
That is true. Space whales were cool. The Star Wars ones were really interesting.
They were. Now, when it comes to technology, you said you have FTL capabilities for your weapon systems. Are you using like lasers and ray guns, plasma guns, Gauss rifles, chemical weapons like we know now? Like, what kind of weaponry are you using?
Oof, great. I'm in a podcast full of veterans. This is where I want to hide and run and not talk about this, because I'm not good with weapons at all. And JR will attest to that. He's lectured me a lot on my weapons. But basically, I do know that they're not projectiles. So there's not a bullet coming out of my weapons. It's sort of energy. It's energy, blaster. Some sort of laser. Probably not laser itself, but something that's bright and
so
deadly.
Laser or plasma something.
Yeah, some sort of blastery thing. Yeah, no, I feel I'm really bad. I think I call everything a cannon or missile or a gun, and I don't have good names for it. So I'm trying to learn and get better. I'm trying to do research on that whenever it comes up.
Well, I dealt with this because I've worked with British writers and with just Europeans in general. I know they don't have the same gun culture we do, so if they're not veterans, they're just not as exposed to it.
Yeah.
So I don't tend to hold that against people. But
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, with your space military, the space navy that you created, is it a one kind of like, is humanity still limited to Earth, or have they got systems beyond?
So they've got Earth as the core, like always. And I haven't spoken much about colonizing other planets, but it's sort of implied that the solar system is a unit that belongs to Earth. And then there are humans spread everywhere in the galaxy, all the planets, all the space stations, which I don't talk about much, but as I go through the short stories, it'll come up more often, and definitely in the next trilogy. And so far, I haven't spoken about the conflicts of different countries against each other within Earth. The space military is one Earth solar system alliance called the ESFA. I always have to think about it. No, Earth Space Force Alliance, and it's just
sort of like a UN army.
Yeah, and I basically did that just to make it easy, because I don't want to talk about or at least for now, I don't want to talk about the conflicts within Earth. I want to talk about the conflicts of humans with other species and what happens out there. So I didn't want to delve too much into how this alliance came to be, which maybe I'll do one day. Who knows?
So, given that you're pulling globally, and there are a lot of global naval traditions. And marine traditions, because I'm assuming if you're in space and you've got a space navy, the combat forces that aren't sailors are going to be Marines, although you could make arguments for the Army. Are you using any one nation as the model to base it on? Because like the British system is slightly different than the Americans, which the Russians was slightly different. Like, how did you organize it?
It's just probably the American system is the one I'm using the most. Probably because it's the one that's spoken about the most, and because of my husband. Now because of KFL, the guys there, which are former Marines. So I tend to use more the American system, but it's also, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Also because I don't understand it that well, and I don't even want to be treading toes or saying things that are just completely off the mark. So I'm trying to keep it very simple, character driven, and also accessible to people that are not veterans or not in this world, because most of us we don't know the intricacies of the ranks and the systems and the organization and the divisions and all that stuff. So,
Now, when you talk about Space Navy, or the Space Fleet specifically, are you talking, is it mostly capital ship versus capital ship? Do you have space fighters involved in your universe?
Yes, it's a bit of both. Most of my characters are fighter pilots, because it's always something that I've loved. Another thing in my bucket list, I really hope I get into a fighter pilot cockpit one day, just to see it, at least be able to see it before I die, because I think they're absolutely fascinating machines. So yeah, I do a lot of fighter pilot characters, but I also have some big capital ships, big warships that I talk about. Some of them are quite important at the beginning of the book, and again, it's very character driven. So yeah, there's space battles and things like that, but it's a lot about interactions between one person to another one, aliens and people, and talking about other spaceships from other species as well, which again, they don't have to be like ours. They have different shapes, different types. So yeah, I'm using my imagination a lot and keeping it simple, not overcomplicated. But we'll see in the future how it goes.
I appreciate the KISS method. I dig it. Is that an expression you're familiar with?
The KISS method? No.
The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. That's what they call that in the Army all the time. Now, so I'm looking at the cover, and obviously has the lady wearing the faceplate, the spacesuit. Do you guys on your ship, do they have artificial gravity, or are they wearing like mag boots, or?
They have artificial gravity. And again, it's a way,
So do you explain how that works in your world?
I mentioned it once. I mentioned that there's a rotating core inside one of the capital ships, one of the very big ships that we see at the beginning, that are called Tyrannos. There's a rotating core, like a matter, like a core of something. I call them the core matter, that I sort of say this is what creates the gravity. Which of course I'm pulling this out of my you know what. But I do talk about it in those. And yeah, most of the ships have gravity because it's easier to tell a story that way, and it feels more not real, because it's not real, but it feels like the stories make more sense if you have gravity when you interact between characters. When you live in ships,
you have one more thing to break in a situation to make it go badly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, given that you're bilingual, given that you've got this Earth force is multinational, how do you handle language in this military force?
So English is the main language, but I imagine that 400 years from now, which is roughly where this is set, English has changed a lot, and it'll be an amalgamation from different languages, especially when you speak it in a common environment. But yeah, it is English, but there's a lot that comes. I do talk a lot about the other aliens, the Venjix, their language, and why they know English, but we don't know their language, Hayek's. So that comes into play a lot into the story. But yeah, otherwise, I keep it simple. There's just, for now, it's English for everybody.
So is it English, and then because of whatever reason the Space Force speaks that, or does English become Earth Common?
No, it's English for Space Force, and because my characters are probably, they are from North America, descend from different places, but one of them is Indian, speaks a different language. One of them speaks French, and that gets mentioned somewhere along the line. I also mentioned something about Spanish, but I think my editor cut that off because it was too long. There's a bit of filler. But yeah, there are different. I don't think you can obliterate all the languages on Earth. there's hundreds or thousands of languages, so you can't really eliminate that as part of our cultures. But just as we do nowadays, and I probably see this a lot more than you here in the UK. I work with people from all over the world, and everybody speaks English, and everybody speaks English fairly well, which is quite impressive. So same as it happens at my work. That's why I imagine in the Space Force in the future, where everybody will have this common language, which in this case is English, but everybody still has their native ones. So it keeps their cultural heritage, and everybody still has accents. One of my characters has Hindu accent.
Okay, so is this going to come out in an audiobook, or is this going to be ebook, print, and maybe hardcover?
Ebook, paper, hardcover, and audiobook eventually, when I figure that one out and find the funds to do it. But yeah, I do want to do audiobook, definitely.
Your narrator will hate you if you do too many accents.
There's only 6 main characters for the bulk of the story because they get lost in space. So for the bulk of it, it's only 6 of them. The problem is that 3 of them are aliens, so that's going to be a weird one.
There's an author I know that's from Sri Lanka, and I used his name as one of the names in one of my books, thinking for sure the editor would have cut it because it was just really long and unwieldy. And it made it through all the rounds of edit till it got to the narrator, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing that."
I know.
So I gave the short version I had prepared anyway because I thought for sure it would have never made it that far.
Isn't that kind of racist in a way? You're discriminating based on name?
Well, I mean, it was in universe that we are so far from Earth that if you keep it too close to Earth, it didn't work anyway. So it was partly I was also breaking lore, but it was just mostly because I didn't expect it to make it that far. I thought they would have called me on it, and it just was a joke.
Get going.
Yeah, they got away from me.
Nice.
I wonder how many other things have made it into books like that we've enjoyed. They're like, this was the greatest part. They're like, that was never supposed to make it into print. It was a joke.
I bet there's tons of those things. I wish I had some as well.
And there's probably some of those in movies too.
Yeah. Well, you always hear about actors just going off on a tangent and doing something weird, and it stays in the
Robin
movie.
Williams was known for that, just like following the scripts.
Yeah. Well, he was definitely special. He was amazing. And I think Robert Downey Jr. does it too, right?
Yeah, I've heard that about him as well.
Yeah, Will Smith used to do it as well when he was younger.
So is there anything, because we don't want to give spoilers, is there anything about War Beyond Galaxies, the first book in the Star Battle Legacy, that we didn't talk about that you think listeners and readers need to know?
I touched a little bit about it, but it's not only an adventure in space. It also has the philosophical question of who we are and how different are we from our enemies, which is something that I wrote in, but I never really thought people would really grasp or get into that part. And as I'm getting all these ARC reviews, because it's just come out, people are really talking about this, and they're saying, that it talks about morals and the depth of the story and who we are and what do we do with these truths and what do we do with conflict. And I'm really proud of the fact that I managed to get that across to people. So it's not just a space adventure, but it has a little bit more stuff to it, and it'll get you thinking a little bit more about all these deeper questions of society and wars. I think, even though I'm not a veteran and I've never fought a war, and I thankfully live in Europe, which is really safe. But sounds like some people really did appreciate this. So
All right, and before we let you go, dear listener, this is the part where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So do your part, people. It really does make a difference. And with that, if people want to follow you online, how might they do that?
Yes. So I'm quite active on Instagram. Probably that's where I'm most active. A little on Facebook, but not much. I'm part of a group that's called Kinetic Frontline. That's mainly founded by military. But we are all writers. We all write military sci-fi, and we are trying to help each other get all these stories out and make them better. So we have a website, it's kineticfrontline.com, with our books, and we're hoping to grow a lot more and have other authors and more books. And that's mainly it. And also I'll be selling books directly through Ko-fi soon, setting that up right now. And hopefully you can get it direct from me and not just from Amazon.
So how did you get linked up with the Kinetic Frontline?
So that has kind of two stories. The one that we say publicly and the private story. So we always laugh, J.R. Wise, who's the one that found me. We always laugh because he basically started reading my book, liked it. And then suddenly I'm sharing my manuscript with this virtual stranger out of nowhere and giving him my whole thing through Google Docs, and he started to rip it apart. So yeah, he loved the book, but then did all these tons of corrections. So he invited himself into the project, edited a bunch of it. He helped me a ton with the military stuff, so it was super helpful. And yeah, that's how we met. And then I gave him some feedback on his books because I thought, well, if he's done this to me, I'm going to do that to him. And I think he liked it. So he invited me to jump over into his group, KFL, and now we are part of it now.
So how did he find your book to read it before it was published?
So through Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. But he thought it was kind of alien romance at first because this book has been published before with a different title and a different cover. And this was, a big mistake of mine. I had no idea what I was doing. It was called The First Spark and had two characters, an alien and the lady.
The cover was amazing, though. I got a little confused when I was prepping.
Oh, really?
So I realized it was a previous publication. But the cover, your art was, whoever you hired as an artist did a good job.
I agree, they did. I hired two of them, actually. The first one was amazing. He's the one that did the main things. But it just looked like fantasy, and it looked like alien romance, and it's not alien romance. And I always laugh at J.R. Wise because for some reason he still picked up the book and started reading it, even though he thought it was alien romance. So it makes you think about what kind of books
he's got a little bit of romantic soul because he managed.
I know, yeah.
So I don't think he managed that without having some level of appreciation for what we love.
Yeah, but there's definitely not smut in this book.
And that's a whole other genre.
Yeah, no, not. I can't write that at all.
Okay. So you do the collective. You're going to be selling through Ko-fi. Now, if people buy it through, have you set that up yet? Obviously, like we're pre-recording this, but this will be released after the book is out. Have you looked at how Ko-fi works? Because I'm not familiar with them as a book seller. Do you need a special app? Does it work like BookFunnel does, or are you familiar at all?
As far as I know, it's super easy. Just I'm going to have a link on the Kinetic Frontline website that takes you to the website of Ko-fi, and I think you just you just land on my page and you just click on the book and pay for it, and pay for postage. And once you have it, it's like an order, and then I just get the order, and then
it's sending it a physical copy.
I will send the physical copy. Yeah. So the website is just for people to pay and for me to get the order, and then I will go into my box at home and get the copy and send it by mail.
So you're not selling digital copies that way?
Not through Ko-fi. Well, maybe I will, because you can as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a thought.
I know people are starting to look outside of the Amazon-only ecosystem when it comes to digital. Yeah. I know a lot of people are selling through BookFunnel. I buy a lot of books through there now. Without the expensive overhead, I actually can get books cheaper through BookFunnel. So instead of like $15 to $30 for an audiobook, I can get it for about $14. And the author ends up making more money that way because they're keeping more of it.
Yeah, that's why I want to do this Ko-fi thing, because I can I can make double the money. And it's not just about the money; it's about giving people an option that's not Amazon. Because I've had people tell me
with Amazon, you're just leasing it with like BookFunnel, and I'm assuming Ko-fi, you're actually buying the copy you get. And then with at least with BookFunnel, I know they handle customer service. So if for whatever reason you're having an issue, I don't have to. If I sold through them, for instance, I don't have to, as an author, like walk someone through how to fix it. I can just say, hey, this is their customer service. They're great. And they will fix this for you. And then they will. I would assume if Ko-fi's coming out after BookFunnel, they're doing the same thing. But I didn't know. I knew they were like a buy me a coffee where you can get donations. I didn't know they were selling books.
I mean, it's still testing it, but it's another author from the UK that's recommended, and he sells, I think, quite a bit, another indie. So it works for him. So I'm hoping it's that simple.
So if you're getting physical copies, are they signed then?
That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to have a copy that's not signed. That's going to be just slightly cheaper than Amazon. And then I'm gonna have a coffee. Maybe I could send a coffee too. A copy that I want to sign. And that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. I want to write personalized messages on my book to people. I'm not that much into the stickers and the bookmarks and all that stuff. Maybe because I don't care as much about it, although I might do it as well. But what I really want to do is, whoever buys it, I might figure out a way to just tell me something about yourself. So then I can leave you a personalized message to you with whatever you've told me into this book, and you will have it forever. Not just signed with my name. So I'm really looking forward to that. I cannot wait.
Okay. And if you want to follow us, dear listener, you can follow us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till they cry tears of caffeinated joy, and we will float away on a river of Java goodness. If you want some of that coffee for yourself, dear listener, use the link in the show notes. The discount code is Podcast Grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my absentee and crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. All right, thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Seriously,
it was.
Fun.
Thank you.
I have to put together a panel of fellow authors that are from your side of the pond. And then I can get you all on a panel together and make it easy.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be super fun.
All right, and with that, we will hit the end button, people.